and streaming to YouTube.
Nice.
I have a couple fun updates. One is, I don't know if you noticed, but my webcam is working again. So that webcam I was using that was getting all glitched out is somehow I just tried it this morning and it's working.
Nice.
So hopefully that's good. And then I also have, I think I showed you my favorite kombucha, this Marin kombucha.
Nice.
So there's a special blood orange cardamom flavor that I don't recall if I've had before. It's not one of their standard, but that's what I bring to lunch break. So ready to drink it up.
Lunch break.
Special lunch break with a special kombucha.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have this giant packet of ginger that some people who are leaving gave us some of their like groceries. And so we have this giant bag of ginger, and I'm like, what do I do with this? It goes bad. And someone
it's
said
all
I
fresh ginger.
Kombucha. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that sounds like a lot of effort. Like, you need a SCOBY and everything, right? Like, have you ever made it?
I've never made it, no. But yeah, I think you do need SCOBY and probably some other, I would guess there's some sort of cooking and like holding material, kind of, I don't know, utility tools that would help with the kombucha making. Actually, now that we're talking about this, I'm curious. Kombucha making supplies. Now how to make kombucha tea at home. So here is from the kitchen.
Yeah, you guys can try if you drink a lot of kombucha.
Yeah, we really should. And actually, oh wow, yeah, there it is. You know, SCOBY is actually an acronym for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
Yeah.
I just learned that right now. I was today years old. Huh. This kind of does seem like, I mean, Jen is really into like crafty cooking kind of projects. This seems like she did pickling. I don't know if I ever showed you the pickling thing she did.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Like at the beginning of quarantine, she did like this big pickling project where we went out and we cut all kinds of veggies like carrots and you know, I don't know, just everything, you know, cucumbers and stuff. And we made a huge pickling kind of thing. I mean, she did most of the work. I think it was just cutting things up. But yeah, she does take on projects, like interesting food projects like that.
Yeah.
Kind of combination of craft and food.
Yeah. That's cool. I was also, yesterday, I have to find a place to live after April 4th, and so I started more seriously looking at Big Island and, like, around Kona, and I was going to ask you if, like, it's been fine living around Honolulu right now, but I'm kind of over it. Like, I'd rather not live in, like, a town-feeling type place anymore, so, I mean, I'm sure Kona's, like, way lower key, but do you think it would still feel, like, pretty urban or suburban, or are there other places on the Big Island that are on the Kona side that you think are kind of a little bit lower key and just like more natural beauty? And
yeah, I mean, I think about places like way up north, like in Hawaii, is very mellow. You know, it's like a tiny little town with like maybe, you know, like a post office and like a coffee shop and a sandwich shop.
What's it called?
Hawaii, Hawi. So it's kind of on the very north, you know, the far north kind of tip end of the island. But in there, yeah, that place is super, like, so there's like Kohala Coffee Mill, there's an art gallery, a gas station, a Cherry Blossoms place, and maybe a food store, but it's very kind of, you know, quiet. And then places I would avoid, like Kauai itself is kind of a little bit loud. That's like more mid part of the island. It's just busy with like there's a harbor there, and then a bunch of I don't know what they're doing. Like I don't know if it's like oil transport or something, but there's a lot of like ships that come in and trucks that are driving things there. So it's just outside of that there are places that are nice, but but Kauai itself, I would not look at that town in particular. And then once you get south of there, you get into these like it's all the resorts are along the Queen K there, and they're all nice, but it's all resorts. It's like the Westin, Fairmont, Hilton.
Yeah, definitely want to avoid that.
Yeah,
I saw too many places just like Airbnbs off of golf courses, and I was like, no.
Yeah. A place might be interesting, depending, like, if you want to be at the beach, several days a week, it may be not the best choice for that because it's inland a little bit. But Waimea is just amazing beauty. It's enough of a town that it's like, you wouldn't feel like you're super in the country, but the beauty there.
It was not too far from Hawaii.
Oh, Waimea?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, it's probably, I guess,
really want to work on surfing a lot. So, like, if I was able to be somewhere by a beach and swimming, like, that would be really nice.
Yeah, I don't think Avi has beaches, actually. I mean, I think there are some nearby. I've never been, but I've never been to beaches near Hawaii, but I think it looks like there's Halaula. Looks like it may have a beach, which is not far from Hawaii. So there's like a bunch of places up there that are all. I mean, Waimea is gorgeous, but more of like a running place.
Yeah.
And then if you go outside of like if you're in Kailua Town, in Kona Town, it's a little bit like touristy, and there's like little trinket shops and stuff. So it's probably not. I mean, I don't know Honolulu that well, but it's like definitely much smaller scale than Honolulu.
Yeah.
But then there's stuff like around, like in the outskirts of Kailua Town, of Kona Town, that are that are less kind of in your face tourist stuff. Like just that the core part is pretty touristy, but if you go down to like some of the other, just south of town for like the next few miles along Ali'i, there's a lot of there's like hotels and stuff, but then there's also just like Airbnbs, and there's actually really good beginner breaks down there too.
I know. I heard Kahalu is good.
Which one?
Kahalu.
Oh yeah, that place is amazing. Yeah. I spent like a month surfing there.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's amazing. My old roommate from like 15 years ago used to have. My roommate from San Francisco had a place in Kona Town, so he had stayed there for many months and would surf all the time. So.
Oh wow, that could be a good option then. Near Kahalu'u, Keahu. That area.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that part is like far enough outside of Kona Town that it's not going to be
like stifling.
Yeah, but it's still like you're not going to be like rural. There's still like country clubs and resorts and stuff, but it's not all like the part of the coast between like Hawaii and Kona. Anything there is like kind of mega resort for the most part, whereas south of Kona Town, there's it's just like more, there's like resort. I mean, there's like vacation type places, like vacation rentals and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it'd be like not stifling from a resorty kind of touristy perspective, but you are connected to stuff, and it's pretty easy access to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kahalu'u Beach Park is one of the best. I mean, I think a lot of people go snorkeling there. That's a great beginner break. And there's just a lot of breaks around that area that are pretty friendly.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
the swimming at Kona Pier is just epic.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that
If you do go in there, go to the Kona Pier and just you swim
Yeah.
right out of it, and you're watching fish the whole time.
That's pretty awesome. Wow. That's so cool. Yeah, we'll see where I end up. Also trying to go to Kauai for a bit. Have you spent much time there?
Yeah, I've been on a few trips to Kauai. I would say it's probably the most densely beautiful. Just like it's small, and then you have so many different things. So many different types of terrain, and you just if you're like driving around, there's like one road that goes around the island. If you're driving around, you just like transition from like amazing canyons like Waimea Canyon, to like Poipu, the beach town, to like Hanalei, or Princeville, and
Yeah.
Hanalei, which is like kind of a great big bay with where you can do like stand up paddling
Yeah.
and surfing and stuff. It's an amazing place. I would say it feels smaller and less developed and less touristed. So Poipu has a lot of like mega resort type hotel things, but they're like let's say minor versions of mega resorts. But outside of Poipu,
Yeah.
everything is like kind of more vacation rentals and less developed. But
Yeah.
Princeville has a couple really big hotels. Like there's a big Westin there.
Where would you
And then
where would you stay for like where would you plant yourself on Kauai if you were going?
I guess it depends on what you want to do.
Because
Because I like riding bikes, and I'd say Kauai is maybe the least bike friendly place if you want to like go riding. And
it's
but
probably mostly going to be water stuff, like try to surf
Right.
a lot, swim, snorkel.
I wonder if something like
Hiking, obviously, but I feel like
I think
good hiking
Hanalei Bay, and either like east of there or even west of there into Princeville might be nice. There's a lot of like vacation rentals and probably places you could find in Princeville, because there's just like a lot of, it's kind of like neighborhoody, like almost like a suburban neighborhood with a lot of stuff developed there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still doing it. Let me see if I think I have some friends who were Bay Area tech people who I want to see if they have published on their Instagram before I start talking about it in public. But they moved, yeah, okay. So here's Rob Lefov, and his wife is Emily Olson, and they live right up there, I think, on the north shore of Kauai.
Oh, cool. Wow, it looks really beautiful.
Yeah. And they moved from the Bay Area. They were in the Bay Area for many years.
Wow.
I think, yeah. Wow. Wow, Rob looks really good. Looks like he lost a lot of weight and looks really happy.
These pictures of their kids are just like a catalog.
I know, right?
Nice. Wow.
Wow. Bring your daughter to work day. I don't know if they're still doing this, but they were working on a new ice cream brand, if I recall correctly. Maybe like a coconut-based ice cream.
Whoa.
I'm not certain if that's still the case.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, and they have Ava Aloha. I guess is that their daughter, or no? That's just
like a Urban Farmer.
Is Urban Farmer the name of their brand?
No, that's just how he was describing himself.
Oh. Right. What was their because they have like this ice cream brand, I thought. But they kind of like just moved there and set up their life and figured it all out.
That's pretty cool.
Actually, last I saw them was at the lobby, which we were talking about yesterday, which was hosted on Big Island.
Oh, really?
Lobby is often on Big Island. Not always, but often on the Big Island.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they were there for a wedding that was connected to the lobby, but not the same thing. I just randomly bumped into them.
Start happening again.
I know, right?
So nice. But if you were to...
I want to learn more about their ice cream story.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, like, last thing on this. If you were to spend a month in one of these places and maybe like half a month in the other, would you do Big Island for the longer amount of time? Just because there is more there, or?
Meaning between Kauai and Big Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would probably... I kind of love the Big Island, and I just know it. Everything feels comfortable there.
Yeah.
So I'd probably do Big Island. Well, I don't know. It's a nice split to do. You can't go wrong. Basically, you could probably, spend. Yeah, I might even split it. I might split it halfway, unless that's inconvenient. But there's so much to see and do on all of them. And there's so much natural beauty just everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Like things to check for if you want to do hiking. Do you know the Kalalau Trail?
Yeah, it's actually closed right now because there have been some landslides. So I was thinking maybe I would wait and then do that at the very end.
Right.
So it's a little drier. But it's been raining like crazy, all over this island too. There's been brown water runoff in a lot of the beaches and stuff.
Is it kind of unseasonably wet, or this is just you're just getting what's typical this time of year?
Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? There was like the most rain that the island has seen since like the 70s or something.
Wow.
And the North Shore, like around Haleiwa, the river was overflowing and like flooding everything, and it was kind of crazy.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry I took us on a long Hawaii detour.
No, that's fine.
We can also talk about interesting things you're seeing on Twitter.
I haven't been on Twitter that much today, so I'm saving it up. Let's see what we got. Here's one. A brand is something that takes a stand. That's kind of an interesting idea. Is there anywhere you disagree with that? It's a nice compact articulation.
Yeah, I don't think I would disagree. It's probably not enough just to take a stand. Of course.
Right.
It's like take a stand that enough other people will rally around, or like take a stand that's like correctly constructed for this moment in time and place.
But I wonder if you can point to brands that don't take a stand, and do they feel just like they did stand for something 50 years ago and now they're sort of tired or irrelevant?
What's a brand, though? Like, does Kleenex take a stand?
Yeah, I think Kleenex probably doesn't today. I think it's sort of embedded in the language.
Yeah.
I think about a brand like Coke, when I think about old brands, I think of Coke, and I think Coke does often feel like it's trying to reinvent itself and keep relevant with new stories and new ways to think about Coke. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a 100-plus-year-old brand, but it does feel like it keeps trying to, I mean, as much as you can for, you know, bottled sugar water, but mm-hmm. And then I think about something like, I don't know, like Sears. I was just thinking about Sears because I saw a video the other day. Have you seen this video that I saw it shared around, I think, yesterday, that was kind of like some financial news analysts discussing Amazon and how it, you know, this was in like, I don't know, 97 or 98. And they were talking about how it was, you know, they would have to be bigger than Sears Roebuck to justify their valuation.
Oh, really?
And how preposterous that sounded. So the brand Sears kind of sticks in my mind as like one that I don't even know if they're still around, but it kind of feels tired, doesn't really stand for anything, and it's just kind of like, in a sense, you know, a place to go to buy a bunch of stuff. It's not like the choice of a new generation or whatever. You know, like this. I think that was Pepsi's, you know, brand stand, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't find this. I want to find this. This video is really funny. Where is this? All right, I'm scrolling through and looking for it, but I can't. I wonder if it'd be something else, like.
Here's another nice one that I saw just now.
Oh, from Roy. What did he say? Hmm. Yeah. Do you know Roy?
I know who he is, but I don't think I've ever met him or talked to him.
I was going to say, he just make sure context, because he and James work together. So just want to make sure you know the context. I'm interested in this, having out there ideas. Someday, David Rogier will tell the puppet story. David Rogier was the creator of Masterclass. I wonder if the puppet story has... I don't know, I'm curious now, but I wonder if it's something to do with like an early prototype of a masterclass. like a puppet shadow box version. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where my mind goes. I don't know if that's...
Huh.
Oh, this is... So this just showed up right after the Roy one from when I clicked on your link for Roy. But this reminds me of a thing. I think I saw some discussion of do not pay in... Was there some discussion of that in the Renko event the other day? I thought they were talking about trying to make 83B elections simpler or something.
Yeah. It came up, but I didn't really honestly catch the substance of what was going on.
So do not pay. I actually have not... I've not used it, but I have been in love with this idea. I just haven't maybe found the right use case to onboard to it yet. But I think the core idea is every kind of government agency or credit card company or, you know, commercial interest basically default assumes that the appropriate interface to contact you is via, you know, U.S. postal mail. Mm-hmm. And that's not always like the most convenient way to interface if you sort of don't work that way. And so what happens is a lot of times, you know, these entities are like mailing you and you have to deal with fighting them through the mail, or like maybe you can't cancel some service unless you know, fill out some paper and do some dance, and it's kind of all this nonsense, these nonsense blockers that get set up And so I think the way Do Not Pay works is you sort of like subscribe to Do Not Pay, and they do things. They have all kinds of like a whole suite of tools that help protect end consumers from the way kind of large companies use their market power and position to kind of abuse individual consumer relationships. And so they kind of like fight for the little guy, in that, meaning fight for the individual, let's say. And so they frame it as the world's first robot lawyer. The Do Not Pay app is the home of the world's first robot lawyer. Fight corporations, beat bureaucracy, and sue anyone at the press of a button. Well, okay, that's a little more confrontational than I.
Wait, where is that? Is that the website for it?
I just went to the website and read their copy. Sue anyone at the press of a button is not quite as exciting as I thought. But, so things you can do with Do Not Pay: fight corporations, beat bureaucracy, find hidden money, sue anyone, and automatically cancel your free trial.
Nice.
Yeah, so like an example where I think corporations sometimes abuse power is when signing up for a new service. Sometimes you have to have a credit card on file in order to be able to get your free trial of the service, because they want to make it easier to convert later. So I think rational. I understand why they do it, but Do Not Pay helps issue you a kind of a one-time use, or like a credit card number that you can expire when you want. So if you do a 1 month thing, and maybe you can even set a timer that after a month expire this number, and then you don't have to like call into the corporation and deal with some nonsense phone tree. You're just like, the thing I gave you is no longer valid, so stop. Because I think New York Times. I don't mean to be negative on them if it wasn't them, but my understanding is I think New York Times is really easy to sign up for a subscription, but it's really hard to cancel. You have to talk to somebody and explain why you want to cancel, and they shift you over to somebody else, and like they keep giving you the runaround and discounts, and kind of like they won't really take cancel for an answer. So this is the kind of thing where you'd want to have, in a sense, like a platform who, a platform which is aggregating, kind of consumers to help protect consumers against some of these types of abuses, and hopefully it just also helps the the corporations to not abuse their position like that.
Yeah. Has there been a lot of pushback about it from other people, or no? Not yet, really.
I haven't seen individual pushback. I had some friends who worked on a problem related to this many, many years ago called Fixed.com, which was like they would help fight your parking tickets. So you could just like use your mobile phone to scan your parking ticket, submit it to Fixed, and then sometimes you get a parking ticket when you don't really deserve a parking ticket, but there was like some, the sign wasn't posted or whatever. There's different things that are not always, they're not always valid reasons for getting tickets. And so they actually have all of the penal code ingested and, in a digitized format where they can figure out if and when and how to fight, unjust parking tickets. I've seen this one popping up. I haven't read this yet, but it says, getting back to work, Google bets $7 billion on The Office.
What does that mean? What do they do?
I assume it's not the TV show. So work from home buzz, $7 billion in offices and data centers. Okay, that's a little bit, that may be an inflated number if you're also talking about data centers and infrastructure.
Oh, got it.
Yes, it seems like Google has been pretty work from home, pandemic friendly during a work from home period, but is maybe somewhat recommitting to an in person culture to some extent, or kind of more offices in the future. Oh, I found the Amazon video. It's 30 seconds. It's nice. It's worth a watch.
Are you gonna post it?
I think my generation.
A couple of geeks who sketched out some software.
Oh my god. I love that.
It'd be great. Somebody should do a compilation video of like all of these prognostications from credible sources that turn out to be like totally bizarre in hindsight.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I think it would be good. I mean, I like it. It's not to poke fun at the people making the bold proclamations as much as it is to like inspire people about how preposterous the actual future sounds at the time. Because I think whenever people are building something for the future, it's incredibly challenging. There's lots of naysayers and haters and people who believe that like nothing will ever change and the present we have is good enough. And I think it's nice if we had like a densely packed, like, I want like a dozen of these 30-second clips all strung together where you get to watch like, here's what they said about Sears, here's what they said about, I don't know, Amazon or Google or Facebook or Bitcoin, like anything that sort of, I guess any of these things has some serious detractors at the near the the early days of its kind of existence.
Yeah. It reminds me of there was an Ollie G video of him just like trolling a bunch of VCs.
This is the ice cream.
The ice cream glove.
The ice cream glove. I love that one. It's so good.
It's so different. It's like everyone's in a suit and there's this like teak wood conference table that you sit around and like what a different vibe.
Remember he actually, I think he had Donald Trump on, and this was back in the Apprentice days, long before the presidency.
Yeah.
And he walked out, like Trump actually walked out on him.
Yeah.
People who has hands.
Yeah.
It's like the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
That's our target market.
Oh my god.
People who are ashray.
What's like? Have you ever heard a pitch? Like, what's the pitch you've heard that for something that comes closest to this?
Oh
we
my!
love that. Anyone who's ever invested this question.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be great. Oh wow. I think the most, the furthest off the mark kind of pitches, I think, have come from the crypto ecosystem.
Oh, really?
Because I think it's actually I'll first share my relevant tweet from yesterday. So I tweeted that NFTs are much better than ICOs. I said NFTs establish new Schelling points, artists, galleries, curators, investors, which are just agreed upon beliefs. ICOs are technobabble describing ideas and products which require massive technological breakthroughs to achieve.
Mm.
And I think back in the day when there were a lot of people doing kind of early stage crypto projects, sometimes with some ICO component to them, sometimes not, but they're kind of like, they're just like, there's a lot that's like really messy from an incentives perspective, but there's really simple like sound bites that sometimes capture the imagination. Yeah. And so the sound bites kind of don't balance into a network or product that necessarily makes a lot of sense. But I don't recall seeing anything as funny as the ice cream glove. They're just like weird instead of like funny, I'd say.
Yeah.
Whereas like the best stuff is just like kind of simple. It's like, yeah, it seems hard, but that all makes sense. It hangs together,
Yeah. That's interesting.
Did you were we watching, or did we talk about this? I saw this clip again on Twitter a little bit ago. Do you know this Carl Sagan telling about how the curvature of the Earth was calculated?
Mm-mm.
Do you know? Have you seen Carl Sagan in the Cosmos series?
Yeah, I have. I loved that growing up.
Yeah, me too. So I think this was actually from the Cosmos series, if I recall correctly, and I just saw a clip on Twitter, and I think it was Earth curvature. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Here's the segment. Carl Sagan explains how Eratosthenes knows the Earth is curved. And it's basically like super simple tools and just looking at shadows and kind of spires from the ground. Look at the shadows they cast and just doing a little bit of math around the way like curves work.
That's magic. I would
love to be able to get. What's that?
How did this resurface for you?
I feel like I saw this on Twitter. I thought somebody was sharing a segment of that video on Twitter. I don't know who this is. I don't follow Scoopy Trooples. But just actually we may have. I don't know who Scoopy Trooples is, but he said true alpha is knowing what will establish a Lindy before it establishes a Lindy, which is kind of like the Lindy effect is kind of this idea that something that has existed is likely to continue existing. So if you didn't know how long something would live, and you had to give your best guess, you would guess that we're about halfway through the life of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best guess you could give. So if you can know something, he's basically talking about, like, I think he's kind of referencing NFTs without saying it, but do you know which pieces of art will stand the test of time?
Mm.
And he's saying there's alpha, or investing opportunity, if you can predict the things that are going to be Lindy. So this is the Lindy effect is a theorized phenomenon by which the future life expectancy of some non-perishable things, like a technology or an idea, is proportional to their current age, so that every additional period of survival implies a longer remaining life expectancy. Where the Lindy effect applies, mortality rate decreases with time. This is funny. I didn't realize the history. The term Lindy refers to Lindy's Delicatessen in New York, where comedians foregather every night at Lindy's, where they conduct postmortems on recent show business action. In this article, Goldman describes the folkloric belief among New York City media observers that the amount of material comedians have is constant, and therefore the frequency of output predicts how long their series will last.
Mm.
The life expectancy of a television comedian is inversely proportional to the total amount of his exposure on the medium. If, pathetically deluded by hubris, he undertakes a regular weekly or even monthly program, his chances of survival beyond the first season are slight. But if he adopts the conservation of resources policy favored by these senescent philosophers of the business, and confines himself to specials and guest shots, he may last the age of Ed Wynn, who died at age 79. So I guess I wouldn't have thought that type of statement is necessarily super. I wouldn't have expected to see such a explanation on the Wikipedia article of the Lindy effect. Because it almost seems more like an overexposure idea, whereas things become Lindy when they're like. I mean, I always think of it as like,
the more solidified something is into culture, like the more it is to stay.
Yeah, because Lindy is about being proportional to the length of existence already. So if like something's more deeply embedded in
and there's
culture,
like to and from it, things.
In Taleb's 2012 book Anti-Fragile: Things That Gain from Disorder, for the first time he explicitly referred to this idea as the Lindy effect.
Yeah.
So if a book has been in print for 40 years, I can expect it to be in print for another 40 years. But, and that is the main difference, if it survives another decade, then it will be expected to be in print for another 50 years.
I
almost feel like Wikipedia may be one of the sources that it almost feels like it's the source we call on most, maybe even more than Twitter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of lost in Wikipedia.
Yeah. Did you see this entry on memorylessness?
Oh no, I'll check that out now.
Cases when the distribution. Oh, okay. So it's like the opposite of Lindy. The probabilities would not be influenced by the history of the process.
Only two kinds of distributions are memoryless: geometric distributions of non-negative integers and the exponential distributions of non-negative real numbers. I think I'd want to look at that in a...
It says real-life examples include the law of radioactive decay, The time until the discovery of a new Bitcoin block. The time a storekeeper must wait before the arrival of the next customer.
I don't know, but the time until discovering a new Bitcoin block is actually probabilistically about 10 minutes. So it's actually managed for difficulty so that it ends up being roughly 10 minutes. Like it can go over or under, but I'm surprised they use that as a...
Memoryless.
What's it?
Why would that be memoryless? That's a bit confusing.
Yeah, I wonder if... I mean, there's more complexity to it. It doesn't actually just happen on a 10-minute interval, but it may be that they're... Like it feels like a very advanced topic if they're using it... I mean, related to Bitcoin seems like a very advanced understanding of this memorylessness and of how Bitcoin works, because the casual observer would say there's like a Poisson distribution of likelihood of a block occurring at a time, but it's oriented around 10 minutes, and there's a difficulty adjustment and a competitive kind of, it's like an adversarial process which tries to help those blocks get discovered every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's probabilistic, I think the probabilistic nature of it is why they're probably referencing it as memorylessness. But it seems like a tough example to just like casually throw in there and expect everybody to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, queuing theory is a good one. So queuing theory is a mathematical study of waiting lines, or queues. A queuing model is constructed so that queue lengths and waiting time can be predicted. Queuing theory is generally considered a branch of operations research because the results are often used when making business decisions about the resources needed to provide a service. Have you ever read The Goal?
Mm-mm.
It's a fun. It's basically like this topic. This guy, Eliyahu Goldratt. The Goal, a process of ongoing improvement. So he wrote this. It's kind of about operations research, but it's told in like a fun, friendly, approachable style where he's like, taking a Boy Scout troop out for a hike, and there's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the slow kid sort of causes traffic jams in the trail as they're hiking.
Yeah.
And kind of how you can reorder. Now that we're here reading Wikipedia, it's actually funny because I guess what we're doing is a small version of something that you could see being pretty interesting, which is we're like skimming around these Wikipedia articles, kind of picking out the best bits and reading them and discussing them with each other. Yeah. You can imagine taking a Wikipedia article, discussing it, condensing it into highlights, and almost like creating a discussion video of all the best moments of a Wikipedia article that then turns Wikipedia into more of a video-centric consumption experience.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
There was a service a while ago called Quickie. Have you ever heard of that?
What was it called?
It was called Quickie, Qwiki. Oh, it looks like it has diverged substantially from what it was. Yeah, actually, it looks like it's maybe not around anymore. Okay, here's maybe the Wikipedia is better. So Quickie was a New York City-based startup automated video production company. Quickie released an iPhone app that automatically turns the pictures and videos from a user's camera roll into movies to share. That wasn't what I was thinking about. The version of Quickie that I recall was after they had moved to the Bay Area. I'd met Doug and Bruce, and he was building effectively like a automated video production on top of Wikipedia. So you could search Quickie for any term the same way we're searching Wikipedia, and it would have like a video produced that would, have like the images, with like nice kind of visual effects and some of the key quotes of the thing shown, but it was all done via automation. It was not kind of a human curated creation process.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty interesting. I thought it was very cool, but not. Yeah, I didn't find like reasons to keep going or using it, but like the demo was really compelling.
I wonder how people would. I'm just trying to imagine this like text and video interstitial kind of reminds me of the collaborative Figma for like Chris Payek's blog idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like people consume it. I guess choose your own adventure, but how would you, as someone coming across like a deep, complex text, want to consume video around it or alongside it? Or would you rather see like commenting and like transcript of video? Or
do you mean in the so when you're referencing Chris Payek, are you talking about the kind of slush Google Doc thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that the kind of video style works for what we're doing, where we're kind of like discussing things and sharing things, and certainly screen sharing, and I think even being able to overlay text content to bring into our discussion would be pretty interesting and useful. And I've seen sort of products and services that help with that. But I'm not sure that I think the Google Docs, I think the raw talking on video chat and collaboratively editing on Google Docs feels like a nice unit of collaboration, but I'm not sure that video of the content in the Google Doc, I guess maybe I just haven't imagined it, but I'm not sure I see how video instead of the doc makes that part better. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you have a hypothesis on what that might look like?
I guess it makes more sense in like a teaching context. Like if I was trying to learn about the concept of memorylessness, maybe there's someone who's done like a quick explainer or something, and then if that's tied to the Wikipedia article or something, that's useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Otherwise, I feel like I often just prefer reading text summaries and text comments of text instead of for speed, instead of watching video.
Yeah, video, I almost feel like it should be either more produced, so you'd want the Wikipedia article finished and then you make a video of it, or you'd want the video, if it's not highly produced, I think you want it to be easily curated into the best moments, so that you don't have to invest a lot of consumption time in the boring bits, which I think there's probably plenty of when you lower the barrier for the creation process.
Yeah.
Another thing it reminds me of is it Joe Pompliano?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we touched on, but I don't know if we ever fully got to the bottom of that. But here's an example. I think some of these are effectively curation of Wikipedia articles. So this one is update. Kanye West is now worth $6.6 billion according to Bloomberg. That makes him the richest black man in American history. Even crazier, he was $53 million in debt just 4 years ago. Here's his wild story. And the wild story, I think, was largely, like, it feels like it's curated from some place where this might already exist, which I assume some of these stories might be present on Wikipedia. Like, that feels like one of the...
So you're just making it into a better, like, more consumable format.
Yeah.
Like he did a thread with pictures and kind of like bulleting it out.
Yeah, I'm wondering, actually, now that we're talking about this, I actually want to know, because this, and look at this, this has 27.2 thousand likes, 7,800 retweets, 965 quote tweets. Like, people love this content and the way he's curated and structured it.
Wow.
So I think, like, you know, it sounds like, oh, just recurating from Wikipedia or a few sources sounds maybe easy, but I think actually it distills the value in the punchy parts in a way that, like, Wikipedia is not really designed to, like, Wikipedia is designed to be, like, more exhaustive and complete in human knowledge without a lot of, you know, any point of view. Like, it's specifically a feature of Wikipedia that be no point of view or non-point of view content.
Yeah.
And I think he's sort of adding a little bit of point of view to it. So now I want to start at the Kanye West Wikipedia article and see if this is, like, you know, can we figure out if this was like a main source, or is this just like part of the stuff or starting point? So here's the Kanye stuff. So I want to compare this to, so he's on a flight with Nike CEO Mark Parker. Is that, I assume that's probably, so when I search for Parker on the Kanye West article, I don't get anything.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this story anywhere here. I just searched Mikey.
Yeah.
Mikey, and clicked around.
I wonder if it's from some, like, there's a ton of, I mean, there's hundreds of news articles linked. So I wonder if actually what it is like, if you wanted to write a playbook for how to do these well, I wonder if you could, like, you started a Wikipedia article, dig into a bunch of the references linked from below and kind of pull out interesting tidbits, you know, with pictures, and kind of form a story that,
yeah,
I think people want to read it and feel like, you know, inspired, or feel like they learned something, or feel like they see the world in a new way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, seeing this picture of them on the plane, that's certainly not on the Wikipedia article, right? At least from a quick scroll through.
Yeah, we can do a Google. What's his name? Mike Parker? Nike flight. Yeah, I see a bunch of, like, random articles about it, but I don't know if there's like a canonical piece that Joe summarized. But it seems like this is a lot of what Polina is doing too, right? Like, a lot of her profiles, she doesn't actually know or interview the people. But
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she was always interviewing.
No, she just, like, summarizes their lives.
Oh, did she tell us that?
I think so. I mean, she must interview some of them, especially now as she's gotten a little more prominent, but definitely started just with these, like, summary sheets.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm looking right now, 1 hour ago, 3 lessons you can learn from Frank Abagnale's Crazy Life. And he's the guy who the movie and book Catch Me If You Can was about.
Yeah.
And then her full post, so she does a little bit of a kind of a teaser on Twitter and then links to the full post where she does like the deeper dive on it all.
Yeah, like these are all summarized. I think.
So mental toughness. So this is a collection of I'm trying to understand. So 7 mentally tough people on the tactics they use to build resilience. And she's interviewing one person about all of these.
I think the person is like her co-discussant kind of about
Oh, okay.
these.
Oh, maybe this is Lauren Johnson is linked and named at the beginning. Yeah, so in this conversation, Johnson and I deconstruct the strategies and tactics of 7 mentally tough people.
That I just posted. I think this is like the classic format.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I think I came away from our discussion with her more oriented around the interviews that she conducts, but maybe that's just a small part of it. Maybe it's really more of these like, kind of curating people's stories into more digestible, exciting bits.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like the way this actually reminds me of this discussion I was having with a friend, actually with George Zhang, who's been on here before, where he was kind of, I think he was asking something about like my belief in this concept of creator economy and is it big or niche or whatever. I don't recall exactly what he said or claimed about it, but I remember kind of taking this strong position that like, oh yeah, I think this is going to like reinvent all content on the internet. And I think this is like an example of, Polina as a creator, effectively like curating, picking, piecing together these stories that maybe historically you would have gone to Wikipedia for, or you would have gone to like some old news articles and links. And she's like doing this organization, curation, and storytelling and kind of like narrative composition around that to make it exciting and fun. And then she's turning it into like a combination of tweet storms that window content into her newsletter. And that seems like a pretty, like a pretty broad idea that probably could happen, like, I guess around like any content, I think. Like, what kind of content would that not make sense for?
Yeah.
Like, I think, a trip to Hawaii or, which cities are worth staying at in Hawaii should show up.
Yeah.
In a search result, and you should be able to find the people who know something about it.
Totally. It's like what we were talking about with Tom about in this like post age where information is not scarce and trust is more scarce.
Yeah.
And like literally anything out there probably could benefit from additional curation and people signal.
Yep. And if you start to build a brand as a creator, kind of known for putting out high quality content, being a trustworthy source like Polina is, then the next person she writes about, we're also all going to be curious to hear about, or if we do a search and show up on a result page that she curated, we're going to have more trust or belief that she's the right person to be telling us about this, or that the stuff she's telling us is high quality.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. As I'm scrolling through her Twitter, I noticed 3 hours ago she did a tweet storm on the Barkley Marathons and Courtney Dowalter.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen?
Corey and I were just talking about this, that she's running it for the first time, and we really, really hope she can finish. There's not been a woman finish it for.
Corey's running it, or
no, Courtney.
Oh, okay. Have you seen the documentary?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you guys got to watch this.
About the Barkley Marathon. I've read stories about them. So bizarre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's I think it was a Netflix documentary. It's so good because I don't know all of what you saw or what you read about, but there's like they play taps when you give up.
Yeah.
So they've got like the bugle guy standing there like deciding is like, are you going to take another lap? And he's standing there ready to start blowing. And
it's so funny, and you have to send in like a sock or like a random object.
Yeah, like I think he did license plates one year or something.
Yeah.
And then I think he starts, like the starting gun is like him lighting up a cigarette or something. There's all kinds of fun.
Him doing a conch at a random time. You don't know what it's going to be, so you just have to kind of like be primed for it to go off.
Right.
And so like you're in your tent and you hear this conch, and then you're like,
Yep. The Barkley starts anytime from midnight to noon on race day, with 1 hour till race start signaled by blowing a conch. The race officially begins when the race director lights a cigarette. It's such a fun, bizarre...
Here's a live tweet of what's going on. I don't actually know who this guy is, but one of the group chats I'm in with Corey and Ali, we were talking about this.
Oh, is it happening today?
It's right now.
Oh, I just saw Paulina's... Oh, I didn't read that. She said it's happening right now. Oh, wow. Why does it say BM100? Is this the 100th running? This couldn't be the 100th running.
Or is it 100 miles?
Oh, okay.
It's 60,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah. And it is brutal. I mean, you're bushwhacking through stuff.
Yeah. I think the last person who finished, was it in 2017? It sure is. Yeah, 2017.
That's the last time anybody finished it?
Yeah.
I shared a link to the movie. The movie's worth a watch.
Oh, this looks awesome.
Oh wait, the thing I linked doesn't look...
It's not the one you're thinking.
Oh, no, it is, but when I click play, maybe I'm getting a trailer of something else. I'm getting something about the Prestige. I don't know if that's just an ad. Maybe I'm just getting an ad, I don't know. Yeah, I guess the thing I linked is what I intended to link, but then I was surprised by the video I clicked on didn't look super relevant to what I expected. Oh, wow. You know Dan Romero? He always has tons of interesting ideas. I feel like he's one of the most creative, generative people who just like has great startup ideas all the time and is sharing them out.
Yeah.
He just published free startup ideas. There's some good ones in there. Strava for cooking. I mean, that's one seems pretty promising.
Chris, right? How like chefs and kind of culinary tastemakers are not really empowered as much as like other creators in the arts in terms of growing huge fan followings and something you might expect from like a photographer or travel blogger or.
I think about like the kind of meal planning that people do with like the New York Times, which is certainly high quality, but not the only tastemaker in kind of cooking. So Strava for cooking does feel like, it's like a nice daily habit, has a lot of nice visual content, has a lot of structured recipe content, almost like recipes.com.
And people like doing it. Like people are always posting in Renko, the cooking channel.
That one makes a ton of sense. Delete me from the internet? How do you do that?
Someone else was talking about this in Renko too. I think like there are services that you can pay like a lot of money, like $1,000 or something, to try to get you off search results. I don't know how it actually works though. Do you know about these things? Oh, no, privacy. No. So this is what someone in Renko was saying.
Delete me? That's both the one that's in the text you paste as well as Dan's hypothetical idea for this. Goodreads plus GitHub, we've kind of talked about that. It's kind of in the vein of Chris Payek's, Google Docs is a form of like collaborative, and then the stuff we're talking about.
Reading instead of writing, like what would pull requests for reading be? Or do you think he means the writing use case?
I assume the writing would also get included, because if you didn't have the writing included, it wouldn't be, GitHub is kind of both creation and consumption, and if you only had one side, Goodreads is only really consumption in like nominally some participation, but I think it's consumption of the site, and then maybe the creation unit is like add a book I'm about to read. So maybe like listing books I've read or am about to read. But it doesn't really have like a pull request, fork kind of. Yeah, I'm not, unless you were actually writing there, I don't know what that means. So I assume it's closer. Maybe I'm just layering in too many of my recent experiences, but the stuff Nadia was talking about too, right, is somewhere in the... We were actually talking about that idea with Nadia of like Goodreads is highly structured. Did we say GitHub or Google Docs? I think, but there's like some unstructuredness, but...
Yeah.
What is Streaming Buddy?
I didn't understand that one. Or Meeting Guru. What are these?
What's it?
What are these Wirecutter ones?
Do you know the site Wirecutter?
Yeah.
So Wirecutter plus Fiverr. I think Wirecutter is like more professionally produced reviews, and then Fiverr is like kind of a freelance marketplace.
Yeah.
So maybe it's kind of like, if you go to Fiverr, I've done this some of our early videos, I was trying to find some good videography, and we hadn't engaged our favorite videographer yet. So I just, to try to get something done quickly, I went on Fiverr, and I had a few things done, but they weren't really that good, and I didn't know who to go to. So maybe Wirecutter is like the curation and quality layer on top of Fiverr, and it's probably not just like user reviews, but maybe, I think in the case of Wirecutter, they go out and they buy all of the TVs they're going to review, and then they sit there and they watch them and they give deep evaluations of them, and then and then that helps people make purchasing decisions. So I wonder if like Wirecutter plus Fiverr is like, okay, you want a freelance videographer? Well, we have done videography projects with 100 people, and these are the top 5 or 10 across various kind of price points and quality, and maybe there's different types of segmentation based on what exactly you need done.
Mm-hmm.
What is Luster AI?
Someone replied to the tweet being like, I already built one of these. And it looks like some sort of review aggregator where it's like a Chrome extension that'll tell you across like Wirecutter and Reddit and CNET what.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's try. Hiking backpack.
So you're searching right now?
Yeah. It's not really working for me, but it's kind of cool.
I'm going to ask him, what is Streaming Buddy? Oh, Luster AI is Stuart.
Do you know him?
Yeah. I was going to say, it's a space that he has been addressing for like nearing a decade now. He's been trying to solve this problem. Yeah. I actually don't. Yeah, I haven't caught up with him in a while. But this problem of basically like Wirecutter for various, like for kind of like shopping, I'd say. I guess Honey for Wirecutter is close then to what Luster is now, right? It's like Honey is kind of a Chrome plugin, so I think it's sort of. I think the idea of Honey is they provide you with, discounts at the time of checkout for various things, and I think Luster is trying to provide you with like reviews and ratings.
Yeah. Kind of cool. It seems like they have preset categories though. Like I can't put in something that they don't have. Like I was trying to look at swim fins, and they didn't have that.
Okay, I just DM Stuart to see if he's around. What is Meeting Guru? I assume that's some sort of like a streaming or a like a streamlining the kind of Calendly thing.
Mm.
Does that sound right?
Probably, but what would that be?
Like presumably something could like do some of the back and forth negotiation between our calendars and figure out when we should meet or propose a few times based on looking at both of our calendars. And I'm not sure if
Instead of just sending a one-sided thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would guess that Calendly gets there if they're not already. But
I know some of these I would be like, why wouldn't? I guess you could say that about a lot of things though. Like, why wouldn't this company build it in to their existing product?
You see, somebody asked, what is Goodreads plus GitHub exactly? Like, easier to push and pull?
Yeah.
And Dan said, the UI UX should feel more wonky, like Git. More airplane cockpit than Tesla minimalism.
What?
I wonder if Streaming Buddy is to help you figure out where to stream shows. Like I just told you about the Barkley marathons, but then I thought it was maybe Netflix, but maybe it's on Amazon Prime Video. So maybe Streaming Buddy just like helps you figure out, based on the sets of services you have and the thing you want to watch.
Yeah.
I've heard people ask for that kind of thing for many years.
Yeah.
And it's still kind of a mess. Oh, here's Stuart.
Oh, fun.
Stuart. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello.
Can you hear us? We can't quite hear you. We see you, but we don't hear you yet.
Maybe it's your headphones.
Oh, there you are. Hey, how are you doing?
How you guys doing? This is cool. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
We're still highlighting, and you're still working on making product
Yeah.
reviews better. Not a lot has changed over the years.
Not a lot has changed. Farkas has still been there.
Yeah.
How you doing? Nice to meet you, Mishti.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to meet you. We were just reading this Twitter thread of where did it go? We put it in chat. Oh yeah, this one. Dan Romero's startup ideas. Saw that you'd commented on Luster, and then we started playing with it, and I guess DK looped you in.
Yeah.
I was looking at, so Mishti shared Luster in our chat, and I was looking, I was like, wait, this reminds me of Stuart, and then I go back to the Twitter thread, and there you are. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, yeah, seriously, like everything has changed, but but nothing has changed. So like, tell us about Luster. And by the way, just to let you know, we do these web shows every day. They're recorded live on the web, and we make highlights and cut out the best moments of it and share them on Twitter. So just it's comfortable. There's nobody else here. We're just having fun hanging out. But if you say something brilliant, we'll probably make a highlight of it.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been on for like an hour and a half, just like derping around on Twitter and Wikipedia. So like that's
exactly.
most we do.
You can see our chat. It's all.
But yeah, no, it's as DK was saying, I've been in this space for a long time now. I met Dave when I first moved to the Valley, and I was doing a website called Slant, and it was like a Wikipedia for opinion style thing, and it started with like subjective programming recommendations, like what language to learn first, and it ended up mostly inside game recommendations for like what PS4 games to play with your significant other, and it was a crowdsourced approach and a community-based approach. We got that relatively big, but didn't really scale or to be on a path for like a venture-backed company, and then we started working on Luster about 2 years ago now, with the core premise of instead of adding new information to the internet, can we organize the information that's already there? And what we try to do is basically automate the research process to be savvy. So if it was going to Reddit or going to YouTube or reading the Wirecutter or whatever, someone who spent 10 hours and had 50 tabs open to buy a good chef knife, can you remove that barrier to entry to be that smart about how you shop online, and then use a Chrome extension to skip a lot of the retention issues and the frequency of use issues inside commerce that I dealt with at Slant, to basically the point of commerce, basically give that consumer the perfect recommendation and sort of inoculate them from the bullshit that's modern commerce, which is mostly full of ads, and that's it. That's commerce today. It's the product that wins the best $50 blender is not the best $50 blender. It's the $30 blender that put $20 aside to bribe Amazon. That's modern commerce. And it's like, quality doesn't matter because the consumer can't tell anymore. So if you can build a platform that makes consumers more savvy and smart without having to do the work, you can sort of change incentive structures in commerce and do some cool stuff. So that's what we're trying to do.
And what have you learned sort of from, I think from doing a lot of the creation work that you're doing before to now doing kind of more like organization and presentation at the right time? Are there big learnings that have come? I mean, it must be a whole different infrastructure and whole different process.
Yeah, it's, we've turned from a company that mostly obsessed about UX flows and content creation flows and making that to pretty much a data science ETL company. Like we have to scrape the web for hundreds of millions of data points. We're building neural nets and knowledge graphs now to organize all of that. We're 20 engineers, and the vast majority of them are just back-end ETL data scientists and stuff like that at this point, where Slant was all about how do you make a good, feel-good, retaining community experience. Right. So it's very, very different. The thing about Slant was no one wants to wait 3 days for a crowdsourced thread to get to the quality you need to answer a question, right? We basically, instead of organizing it, we just basically added more noise to the web instead of making it really better. So I think doing it this way is something that means you can get like that instantaneous response for things. It can scale a little bit better. And we'll probably build a bunch of Slant-like things into Luster. Like we plan on doing the same thing but instead of relying on a community to take a content piece from 0 to usable, we'll use Luster to make it 90% good up front with 0 community participation work. Then if you want to make it a little bit better, add more context or re-rank something, the community can just take it across the line. I think that no one likes to start the empty Wikipedia page, but like if you have a little bit of additional context you want to add to the thread, that friction's a lot lower.
That's cool.
And is that going to be adding like my own review, or is it like upvoting certain segments of the already organized content, or how do you imagine that looks?
It's going to start as a QA system, so basically disagreeing or agreeing with the recommendations how they stand today, and then we'll basically the same way with the Slant, where you can always start by agreeing or disagreeing with the content as it stands, and then you can always ask for progressive enhancement. Like, do you want to add why you agree or disagree? Is there something completely missing here? And then you just sort of you use that core human behavior of being angry at something being wrong, and then you use that to thread them into then fixing it. So we'll start with the letting you express your feelings, and then we'll maybe then let them leave a review or do something additional at that point.
Right. And it sounds like a big part of the newer strategy with Lustre is around having a Chrome extension. Is it that because of the kind of always present and available for your
to a point, right? So my month one retention at Slant was 0.45%. I got millions and millions of people coming in through search, and then they just never stayed. And like I remember sitting down with Josh Ellman one afternoon. He's like, "How many people are really using your product?" I'm like, "Oh, 2 or 3 million." He's like, "No. How many people are using your product?" And I was like, "Oh, 300,000, maybe 200,000, right?" And it's like the Chrome extension model lets you acquire a user once, and then basically be able to be helpful when you're helpful. And then when you're in your early days of a product recommendation software, before you have coverage across every single purchase, if you have an app, if you use Lustre on a phone right now, most people download it, install it, search for, Peloton shoes. Nothing would come up. No, this is useless. And then it's uninstall and never come back again. They give you 2 chances and they're out. With a Chrome extension and the way we implement it, we can be there for about, 20% of your purchases, which is what we do today. And if we're not there for the other 80%, you don't uninstall it. We still have chances and shots on goal. It's just not used at the moment in time. So basically, it allows you to buy yourself time as a recommendation company and go, we're helpful, and then I basically look at my metrics and go, when there's enough of a cohort using Lustre weekly, I will consider going native or consider building a destination site or consider doing something else. I'm just watching that number go up as we increase coverage and recommendations and trust within the community. So it's just it's a growth go-to-market hack.
Right. And it seems like I think over the years, we've seen a lot of attempts at Chrome extensions, and then I think Honey was kind of a big moment when I think they really broke through and became like a very high growth, high revenue, great outcome around the Chrome extension ecosystem. I don't even know if I can point to other ones, but do you think
Grammarly is there
Grammarly,
as well? They're a big play around there. Yeah, I think it's
are we at like a renaissance? Are there going to be like dozens of these, or is it kind of?
I don't know. I don't think it's like bigger. I think, for example, here's the problem I have with the Chrome extension is it's so limited to desktop use that if we say sponsor a YouTuber and we get them to talk about how much they love Lustre, 60% of that audience is on a phone. And of the audience that are on the phone, some of them don't even own a laptop or use it for shopping literally at all.
Right.
So like, the future stuff is still mobile, and especially for shopping, it's happening more and more on the phone. So depends on the use case. For Lustre, I view it as a temporary part of our journey that I think would keep the company alive, where a native app would probably be killed in 12 months with no retention. But it really depends. Like I think a friend of mine runs a company called Toucan, and they're basically doing learn a new language by replacing some words in the browser. It's brilliant, right? Like that company is amazing. It's like it's just you read a Wikipedia article and every 9th word is in a new language. You just pick it up inside the context of the sentence you're reading. I think there's going to be a bunch of really cool companies like that happen with Chrome extensions because the retention is killer. But you got to be careful with your native, and you got to be Honey struggled because you have a user experience that requires the browser. You have to be at the point of checkout on your existing flow, which means the user never starts their journey considering Honey. You're on Macy's buying something, and then Honey comes in at the end, which means when you transition to native, it becomes a lot more harder. People aren't used to starting there. I think Lustre is a little bit easier because we are earlier in the journey. Like before you even know what you're looking for, what to buy. So that transition is a little bit more smoother for us. But I think there'll be a bunch of really interesting Chrome. I know a lot of people building them at the moment and playing around. Honey are.
And do they all? It sounds like so. In the case of Honey and Lustre, let's categorize it as like generally kind of commerce oriented stuff, and then Grammarly and Toucan are maybe kind of learning oriented. If you want to bucket them, do you think that? Are there other big categories where we're going to see Chrome extensions, or are there like more opportunities within those 2 categories that you think we'll see emerge, or how do you think about sort of the
productivity is a really interesting thing. I think what I like there's a Chrome extension called Station and a couple other ones where the thesis basically being your world is turned into you're accessing the internet now in the browser. Like I don't open apps anymore. I use everything inside a browser tab is my way into the world. Yeah, and I think there are some interesting companies reorganizing that. Like, how do you make your browser feel like a first-class experience, where like your Gmail for your personal and your Gmail for work are two separate entities that feel like apps you can go into that mode. So I think there's going to be some interesting like browser modifications. It's like rethinking the browsing experience overall via a Chrome extension. That I think is going to be a thing. So I think productivity is the other third bucket that will be there. But it's just, I think there's very interesting ideas you can do with it, where it's like, how can you add incremental value to an existing behavior? And just do a little, just do a little bit more for people, and I think there's a bunch of interesting things there. But whether or not that's going to be a business is the problem. People don't pay, like, it's hard to get that. Like, commerce is easy because we have the affiliate industry and other things to fall back on. Grammarly is just a monster, and then they have the whole like, if you wanted to work like for professional writing and stuff like that, you can upgrade there. I think a lot of the other ones will struggle to get people to pay for a Chrome extension.
Do you think that there's ones that are, that may have opportunities to back into more sophisticated kind of browser kind of information organization? Like one thing that we've never really seen is some sort of like social browsing, and that has always felt like it would be a compelling activity, but we don't really have a context for it.
Because we've been talking about how like we're overloaded with information and how curation is more and more important, but like people curation particularly. So I was just thinking, like, where do I do most of my shopping? Probably Amazon. Like, if I just gave my close circle of friends access to all of my, maybe not direct access, but there's some sort of like shared Amazon shopping pool. So then next time I'm looking for like hiking socks, I know what my friends have bought.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way that you're kind of pulling from like Wirecutter, and I wonder if there are like people's purchases that could be interesting to like.
Actually, that's kind of cool. What if you actually could get people to link their Amazon receipts with kind of a layer like a luster?
Yeah.
And it's like a kind of a blind, like it's a demilitarized zone where you can't see what I bought, but it can tell you that somebody who bought hiking socks or hiking shoes was your example. And then it can ping me and say, hey, are you okay sharing this with Mishti? She wants some help, or with somebody, right? Yeah. And then it kind of can, connect across the DMZ.
It's funny. Maybe a Chrome extension could solve the problem to a point. It's fine. I've seen come and go at least a dozen shop with friends startups. There's one that just came out of YC called Chums that just got relaunched the other day.
Chums?
It's a native app that's like shop with friends. And
you need to download a new app, and everyone needs to shop through that instead of just like pulling what you have out there. That seems like a heavy lift.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's always hard, and the other issue I have with it, and my theory behind why these probably won't work, is I think if you live in the tech industry or you're in Silicon Valley, you're surrounded by brilliant people who are so passionate about this sort of stuff. Everyone knows someone who's like the photography nerd or the cycling nerd or the cooking nerd, and you can be like, oh, if only I could have so-and-so's purchasing behavior inside my shopping experience, this would be amazing. I don't think that is the experience of the average American. I don't think the average American has like a go-to expert for one of their shopping things. So I think that's my. I think it's definitely one of those, like, it probably works in the Valley's friend group. I don't think it works outside of it. Like, and I think that's my policy.
I would suggest though that may be okay, because a lot of things, I think that especially around a social experience, you only need like enough density to prove that the thing works well. And so it might be that if you have even just a few thousand people who would get enough mutual exchange value out of it, that would create like that would kickstart the engine that would make it an interesting experience. People that talk about what a great experience was, and then people who otherwise might not care within their own friend groups could attach to a kind of an already existing flywheel.
It's just such a hard industry, right? So just say you have something like your hiking shoe friend, and it's like that project may have happened 6 months ago. Since then, new SKUs have been released, SKUs are out of stock, the prices have changed, the world of commerce has shifted. And do you really think your hiking friend is going to perpetually maintain their opinions on hiking shoes for you? Probably not. And then you don't need to know that they have
bought that particular hiking shoe. Like, you just need to know that they have bought hiking shoes, because then it's like a good connection.
Sure.
So it doesn't have to be the updated real time, because it's probably in their head.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible. I think my bias here is the information's already on the web. And I think the approach for Lustre is, I feel like we try to import social proof, not try and generate it. So it's like, Reddit is a really cool example where I think it's one of the growing trends. If you go to Google right now and type in a lot of like best thingies, you'll see like Reddit is like a suggested appending of that query, because so many people are falling back to looking at that. And like, I view that as because Reddit is one of the last bastions of authentic knowledge in the web. Everything else is paid and bought for, right? Everything else is influencer stuff. It's SEO bait. Reddit's one of the few places that people are providing recommendations to people because they want to, or they're authentic and they're actually doing it. And I think, I think that's more I think that information's already there, and this behavior's already there. I'm sort of pulling them into a system instead of trying to build new social shopping behaviors, which are definitely happening. Like, I think you look like live commerce, social commerce, like that. There's interesting stuff there. It's just always been a bit more biased around those processes that we already have. And being able to adapt them on a per shop, on a per category basis. Like how people will research like a self tanner will change based on how they research a TV to a chef knife. You want a system that can adapt to that and keep that in the right. Like, some things are more social than others, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm noticing the Reddit pattern that you mentioned, and I'm doing these queries right now, and I'm also noticing YouTube as a common destination. So it seems like, do you also run into YouTube and people kind of doing almost YouTube's wire cutter style videos? Or
what used to be someone starting a blog is now you go to YouTube channel, right? And for commerce, it's interesting because it's one of the few places where you can come across authentic, because you can say, like, I love the Logitech G19. I use it. I actually have the product. I'm not a spammer. I'm not someone and so when you run into a world where people are used to trying before they're buying, or like walking into a store and seeing products, the closest analogy to that is at least seeing someone with a product that you can sort of get a feel for what it looks like with vibe and stuff like that. So I think YouTube's huge for this. I think YouTube's absolutely massive especially for beauty, but even basically across the whole thing. I think.
Do you guys think about creating video for Lustre, or about helping users of Lustre create video?
We're closer to our current strategy in the space is to help creators of video make a living how they're already doing it. So we do things like we will pay for the products for you to review and not ask for a cut, just so you can survive as a YouTuber. Like, I want better quality, more authentic YouTube videos to exist. So we will go out there and sponsor a bunch of small channels who otherwise may not be able to make enough money to even pay on. They may be losing money on the video because like they have to buy the product, making less money on the ads than they did just buying the product to review. And we want them to succeed. So we're closer we're closer to just making sure that industry is healthy and then supporting the industry than we are first party creating their own content.
And does having, like, if you kind of subsidize the creation of video content around a certain category, does Lustre directly get some sort of special access to that information, or how does that?
Yeah, we try and do things in a way that we can make our lives easier for processing the knowledge. So I make sure there's a link in the description that I can then scrape and process and update and stuff like that. So getting user sentiment out of videos is not easy. And that's not an easy task really to do. So we sort of make sure that's organized in a way that we can deal with in our own systems downstream. But that's basically it. I think we do better the better the review industry is doing. So as long as they're surviving and doing good work, we're okay.
Right. I wonder if you could actually find the segments of. I mean, we always think about videos and highlighting and stuff, so that's naturally where my head goes. But I wonder if you could find the segment of the person talking about the thing that you want and sort of help include that in the Chrome extension. Like, maybe we often do this. We make 1 hour videos and then we cut out like the very best, the 7 30-second clips that were the best, right? So you're talking like a few minutes worth of consumption. that maybe was an hour worth of production. So I wonder if there's a way to take, like, if you're already subsidizing the creation of these, but if they turn into 20-minute videos that are hard, but if at the time of checkout you could be like, here's the 30 seconds of the person showing the thing and waving it around, and and give that. I gotta imagine that would be super compelling to convert people.
I agree. That'd be really good. I think
couldn't you even you could use that to encourage an ecosystem of people who are incented to create great content for this system almost.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I think you would have noticed that YouTube's adding the ability to tag parts of your video right now, right? You can create that, like, this is what I'm talking about, the outdoor performance, we'll talk about this. So I think that's interesting in general, whether they're better structuring their video content that way. One nice thing in the world of reviews that we use a lot as a trick is you typically summarize at the end. So you may have like a 10-minute video about a product, and you're like, well, in summary, I really like this, So it's about finding that bit where they're concluding their thoughts and like making that highlight snippet and using the sentiment there. And then you kind of throw away the 20 minutes before it, where it's like, it's very hard to trying to like get the sentiment of someone reviewing a new action camera, and it's like it's hard than getting a sense like, oh, I'm going to my favorite park this afternoon. That's a high sentiment sentence structure in the transcript. It's nothing to do with the product. But at the end of the video, they're like, overall, I don't like this as much as the GoPro, but it's still pretty good. And you can just grab that snippet and organize there. Is where we're sort of focused on. Yeah,
that's cool. And then does that show up in the from the consumption experience of the Chrome extension? I can watch that little segment.
It will soon, yeah. It's there in a secondary way, and soon it'll be more visually prominent than like the editorial reviews and stuff like that. You'll be able to quickly see these snippets as you show.
Oh, that's awesome. That seems like that would be really, really compelling experience.
Another thing we're doing is letting you then follow specific people that represent your vibe. So again, especially for more subjective areas, for like clothing or beauty, where you want a threshold for quality, but the best isn't less important to you than getting something that like you can sort of relate to. So if you can say you follow 3 or 4 beauty reviewers that resemble how you think about beauty, how you want to look and represent, and you get their snippets and like their products ranking higher for you, that's close to how we see the world, in our view.
Right. And it does the creation side of it, is that something that you guys ever do anything from a kind of a brand perspective? Like, do you guys ever do, I don't know, like, sandwich video? They make all these like funny videos.
Oh, yeah, I would like to. I think, we're that's a good idea. I would like to do something like that. Nothing yet.
Because it seems like, I might just look at the website today, and Luster, you sort of say how you're a bunch of back-end, almost like data scientists and ETL, and it's like very a data-intensive business. And the front end, actually, I would say, to your credit, actually, is simple and beautiful, and it just looks, it's actually much more attractive than when you were a UX-focused company, in my opinion. And I say that entirely as a compliment. It's like, it's simple. The UX-focused company had lots of details and things to click on and learn about, whereas this one feels more like, it's just beautiful and simple, and there's, it has some fun new types of ways of interacting. But I could see, doing some sort of an explainer or something that helps people, I mean, sandwiches over the top, their explainer videos are, way kind of produced, but I wonder if there are even simple ways to just help people get a quick picture of what the experience feels like right there on the website.
That's a good idea. I can also show you, here's what the new version is going to look like. I think it's going to be even a little bit more simple and clean than the current one. We're moving up. The current one was designed by me and another guy, and this one's a bit more, I think, friendly and a bit less overwhelming with the information structure as well.
Right.
Right. Cool. I like that a lot.
It's very, very simple. Very nice.
We had a problem with the current structure. If you see, it's very organized around budget. like this amount of money, this amount of money, and this amount of money. And we had a UX challenge around reducing optionality so you don't overwhelm with too many options to pick from, while still allowing exploration. And it sort of like ended in this really awkward place where if you go to the TVs category, there's like still 20 budgets to pick from, and it's just like endless products, and basically it's still very overwhelming. So with the design I just posted, it's very opinionated with the first three choices, like a cheap one, a middle ground one, and an expensive one, as that common presentation of the recommendations. But then there's a free-form budget selector at the bottom. And when you hover over it, it'll show you where the good products are in the industry, on the market. So, there's a bunch of really good ones here, good ones here. It gives you a bit of a affordances of a color, but it doesn't it sort of breaks those UXs apart and lets you.
That's only visible on hover, is that right?
Yeah, just give it simple on that. Because it's interesting. It's out of commerce. It's a very long tail, and while you can get like the big complicated categories can call you like a siren. Oh, let's do TVs and headphones and these big categories. The vast majority of the time people interface with your experience is going to be buying these like bath sheets and chef knives, and like these are the products that are the largest in engagement. So you need something that can adapt to be very simple and clean, but also scale to the larger categories where they're a fraction of your engagement, but the majority of your GMV. So it's a hard thing to balance, right?
So I just want to make sure I fully understand the experience, because I always think of them. I think of it within the commerce kind of checkout flow, but I think you were saying you're earlier in the process. So you're in search. So do you have like landing pages that people hit, or do people if I search for bed linens, will I show up on a Luster?
If you have the extension installed, search for chef knife or search for robot vacuum, one of the categories we have available.
Yes, I don't have it. I don't have the extension installed yet. So is it when the extension is installed, then when I do the search on Google,
insert that little thing inside inside the page itself.
Oh, okay. So like right in the search results page.
Yeah, we are very aggressively rewriting how we think Kombucha should work by basically taking over the pages themselves.
Right.
Which is something you can only do with the Chrome extension, and it's interesting.
Yeah. Do people generally get that and expect that, or do people have
weird
pushback or questions about it?
Yeah, it's. I think we're probably the most aggressive extension. Most of them are pop downs from the browser, and very much here's a coupon. Do you want to add it? Where we're rewriting the page itself and being very aggressive about it. Some people don't like it, but I think the people that don't like this what is usually there is a bunch of ads and crap anyway. If you don't think that Luster provides more value than what was there, you weren't going to love my product anyway. So I think it's fine that some people aren't a fan of that. I think, that's overall when we have 80% North month one retention. So I don't think there's not too many with a qualm on it.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our negative feedback is I searched for bed linens, didn't come up, and that's sort of what we're focused for right now internally. Is so with the first bit of funding, we got something up and running that worked and retained and converted, and now we're trying to figure out how to make an actual system that can scale to a Google scale of product knowledge, and that's what we've been working on, sort of heads down for the last 6 months. And we think in the next couple of months, our knowledge of of recommended products can go from 30,000 to 500,000. And the queries you can type will go from a few hundred to tens of thousands of different ways of asking for information. So it can be more natural language. You can say, I need Peloton shoes for wide feet. And it'll just give you recommendations in the natural language you asked for.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned kind of, I think the life of the company is 2 years ago you got started. And
we did the pivot from Slant about 2 years ago, yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned the team is 20 right now. So is that help me understand sort of how did that evolve from the Slant team, or is this kind of a new team entirely, and is it distributed and local?
Yeah, I think 99% of the Slant team are still cores. There's 8 of us, so we formed the core of Luster, and then we've been fully distributed now. Most of our new hires are all around the world.
Was that as of COVID or as of Luster?
Yeah, that was kicking and screaming. I was not a fan of that. I was not a fan of it. And we sort of just led into it. And Now I've been doing most of the time hiring. I'm a fan of remote. For basically, it's nice to be able to hire outside the Bay Area, but it still has its quirks that I'm not too much of a fan of. It's very hard to get that. We have a bit of a problem with there's the in crew who used to build Slant with us, who've been working together for years, who can read each other's minds, and then I don't want this sort of inner circle, outer circle culture. And if you go to this default asynchronous or default Slack, and it's hard to make people cross that chasm when you don't even see their face. You see their face.
Have you tried
meeting and stuff like that?
Have you taken any kind of proactive steps to try to help correct for that?
Yeah, we do. We're doing there's half an hour on my calendar every day where I'll jump on a Discord water cooler channel. I'm here, come hang out with me. And I'm trying to vary the time zones of that so everyone can get access. But even that's a little bit tricky.
Are you guys worldwide? You have
everyone's everywhere. We require a 4-hour overlap. But that 4 hour can be in the morning, midday, or in the afternoon, and it's just.
I see.
It's we're playing around with these newfangled virtual office tools, very Branch, Flow, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most engineers don't like the idea of an always-on thing watching them at work, and it takes away one of the anxieties of being in an office is not have to be in that social environment. So it's a little bit of friction there, but it's getting. I think it would be a lot easier if we designed a remote culture from scratch. Taking an in-person culture and then not really being too conscious about it has been hard. I think only because of the friendships we formed previously has it worked at all.
Right. Yeah, interesting. One thing that so we've been fully distributed since the beginning 3 years ago, and one thing that we started, I don't know if we started about a year ago or so, but we started doing these things we call open office, which is effectively Zoom, or we have an internal build of this experience where we kind of get together Pacific time about 8 a.m., 9 a.m. each morning. And there's no expectation that anybody has to be there, but it's just an open time that, generally a bunch of people will be there. And so it turns out to be very low stakes, no topic, but tons of stuff gets done. And tons of people just build better relationships, better working relationships, better problem solving because it feels like you have this low stakes, no agenda environment, but it's a reliable time you can convene and bump into the people who might help you get unstuck or might help answer questions if you have sort of dependencies. So we found that to be kind of helpful.
And I will say it is challenging sometimes just to have everyone in one space for hours because one conversation thread can only happen at a time. But there are kind of interesting tools that we've tried some of them out, like Flow's thing. What is it called now? Team Flow.
Team Flow now, yeah.
Spatial. You can be in the same space, but also split off into separate conversations.
Yeah. We're currently comparing. Branch just came out of YC, I think. That's a Team Flow competitor, and there's one more I've got the name of. I like them. I think they're nifty.
Is Gather doing enterprise?
Gather. Yeah, that was the one we started with. We actually like the most. It's cool because you can put web games in there. So we're playing poker and and code words and stuff like that. So it reduces the friction just to hang out and do some fun stuff around there. Yeah, Gather Town. That was the name of it. They're the three that I think are there at the moment.
So there's gather.town, teamflow.com, and then the other one is Branch, you said?
Yeah, I'll get the website. No. It's branch.gg.
Branch.gg. It's like a gamer thing?
I think they may have started there, yeah. I swear Branch was a esports platform at some point. Maybe it's a competitor. Maybe they pivoted or something.
Pluto too, I guess. I don't know if people have been using Pluto for this use case necessarily, but...
Which one's that?
Pluto, it's like a 3D version of this kind of spatial virtual world thing. We actually hosted a little happy hour kind of meetup thing, Pluto.video. You can just create your own kind of virtual space, and you are the organizer. You send a link to people, all drop in right in the browser, kind of like we're doing today. But
worlds you can go walk around into, go into the Burning Man universe,
cool.
Wherever.
All my roommates, and I've been sending everyone in Quest 2s. Like, got my family back home in Australia at Quest 2, and it's been like amazing because I haven't seen I've seen it for years now because of COVID. I was badly overdue for a trip home last year, and I cancelled it all for this. And we've been hanging out in Rec Room and playing table tennis and VR together. They've been an amazing sort of just
magical. Wow.
That's it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah.
What else have you been reading or kind of seeing anything interesting recently? Like, so on lunch break, we often just read Twitter and Wikipedia together, or like talk about.
I read a lot, but I don't. I read mostly fantasy novels these days. That's like my new escapism. Is I read a ridiculous amount. I've read so many. I've read all the Stormlight Archive from Brandon Sanderson and all his books around.
Oh my god, he's so cool. So okay, I haven't read them yet, but we were just talking about like authors who do really creative things with writing in public and kind of engaging their fans online. And the more I read about him, my mind is just blown. Like, I was telling DK, he has these Kickstarter campaigns where you can like fund part of a book to unlock like the track changes Word doc of it before it came out, and like all of these really cool things.
He's got progress bars on all his books. Like, this one is 60% complete. He's probably one of the most prolific writers, I think, of this generation. It's the opposite of George Martin, like by the other end of the spectrum here. He writes, I agree. He does such cool stuff. He does weekly YouTube videos where it's like, because like Sanderson's kind of like Tolkien-esque in that I think, maybe we get the details right. His like PhD paper was kind of like the metaverse of which his books are set in. So he wrote like everything defining the world and the universe and the physics, and then every story takes place in that world. So then he does these like weekly calls on the words of Sanderson, where it's kind of like people giving him little snippets and more like ideas. He's so good at the community aspect and the communication, and he's an amazing writer. Big fan.
Is that Arcanum? Is that the one?
Yeah.
What's his name?
There's a huge community around it. He's great, and I think there's like there's a lot of the authors hanging out in our fantasy on Reddit as well, which is really cool. And they'll like, I always love it. Like, two people will be debating something about one of Sanderson's books, and he'll just come in the end of the thread and be like, "So and so's right. Sorry, this is how it works." It's very very active with the community. It's great.
Oh wow, that's really cool. It's funny because it's you go on the website and it's kind of just like this old school looking website, but I really think that he's doing some of the most creative stuff in terms of how he's involving his really deeply invested community and like everything that he's doing.
Yeah, like his like beta writers will like do blog posts talking about, they'll do like a read together chapter by chapter. Like, he usually releases the first chapter, 20 chapters before the main book gets out, and you can sort of read along with like the beta testers and get their reactions to things. It's great.
Wow.
So I've been sucked into the world of fantasy novels, which is unfortunate because they're all very long. But other than that, that's mostly what I've been reading these days.
Yeah. Also, I love his story. Like, wasn't he? I'm just browsing his bio right now. Yeah, grew up in Nebraska, went to BYU, started taking a job as a night desk clerk at a hotel. Like, very like Einstein-y almost.
Yeah, no, that's cool. What are you guys? What are you guys up to? What's the latest? You guys still on SF, DK?
Yeah, that's still on SF. Yep. Always asking the question, should we be somewhere else? But we have. I mean, we've taken we took a road trip in the autumn and kind of went to Utah and Arizona and Southern California and kind of did a little road trip, and then we got back home and we were like, we really like it at home.
Yeah.
So still here for now. What about, are you also in San Francisco still? Or?
I'm moving back to SF. I was in San Mateo for a bit, and then when the rent went down, me and my best friend from college, who's currently my roommate, I got roommates again for the first time in a while.
Oh, wow.
We got a house together near the Painted Ladies on
yeah.
So we're in there at the moment. Yeah, no, it's nice.
You still have, when I visited you in East Palo Alto like a decade ago, you had a huge projector screen where you guys were playing Dota or something?
Yeah.
Was that?
No, I
still
don't
have
have
that?
the screen anymore. No, that's the founding crew have all sort of gone through. We were our roommates for 5 years. I think that was enough time
Okay.
to be roommates and founders. So that group is split up. We still work together, but yeah. So yeah, that's fine. I forgot you came to the East Palo Alto place. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. The East Palo Alto office,
Yeah.
aka home.
Yeah. We did the literal. It was crazy. It's funny. It's been nearly 10 years. I think we nearly met for the first time.
Yeah, I think it has been, right? Somewhere around
Wow.
there.
Maybe next year, I think we know that. Yeah, I think DK was the second person I met in the Valley. Maybe third, I think. I cold messaged Ed Aiden on Twitter for some reason. Then I met him. Then he's like, "You should meet my friend DK," and that was basically the start.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, I haven't seen Ed in a while. Do you see Ed still?
No, I followed him on Twitter. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was. I don't know why I DM'd him when I first moved here, and then DK introduced me to Siki and everyone else, and it's just been.
Oh right. Wow, Siki, yeah.
Wow. I hear this about DK so often.
Say again?
I hear this about DK so often. It's like I moved to the Valley as a young lad off the boat somewhere, and DK just opened up this world. I mean, it's kind of
great.
I met DK a year ago. DK and I have only met once in person, which is kind of very strange to think about.
Yeah, so Mishti and I work together every day, but we only actually met in person just once. And actually, I don't think anybody else from the Highlighter team has met anybody else. Well, we haven't met the rest of the Highlighter team in person ever, right?
Some of them have met each other.
Some of them have met each other, yeah.
So how do you guys? So you started here a year ago. Is that when you pivoted from the book to the video system, or what's the bit of the history?
Yeah. So the history was. We had started very focused on kind of this idea of a new atomic unit for information on the web, which would be a highlight. And we started around building kind of this OCR tool to extract highlights from books, from physical books. And kind of along the way, just about a year ago, we found ourselves hosting a lot of Zooms with authors to get authors in a space with the people who care about, the readers of that, and to sort of be able to host a session and get people together and reading and asking their favorite questions of their favorite author. And that just, while it was Zoom, it worked better than anything else we were doing by a long margin. There's just so much energy when we would host these things. So we said, okay, we would love to do this, but, scheduling the things and organizing the guest lists and composing the stage the way we want, so the video stream looks the way we want, and then publishing it to YouTube and having the editing abilities and then creating highlights. There's just a zillion problems around the core space of what we were trying to do. And so we started building this. Yeah, I forget exactly when, but we've been in this process in the last year or so, and we've just been. I mean, there's a lot. I don't know if you. It probably hopefully looks focused, but all the details take. I mean, there's so we look at this and we're still so many problems we need to polish. So there's just a lot of UX to make it all work well. So
what's doing the video in the background? Is this on YouTube?
It is, yeah. So if you click on the Streaming Now YouTube link right next to the live timer, that'll actually launch the YouTube and you can see us.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been doing this and making videos and hosting. Sometimes they're very formal sessions, and sometimes they're more of these lunch breaks is what we call them, where Mishti and I get together and read Twitter or Wikipedia, share links, invite interesting people. We just ended up seeing you on Twitter real time, and then it's fun to just be able to drop in and catch up with you. So we make videos, make highlights, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Is there a native app as well, or is this a desktop browser experience at the moment?
Just browser for now. So as hosts of these things on Zoom, we never hosted with the mobile Zoom app. It's just if you're going to get a bunch of people together and you're going to get some sort of celebrity author together, you want to have a nice background, and you want to have good lighting, and you want to have maybe good audio. If you've got a nice external camera, maybe not Gary 10 quality yet, but but
yeah, he's going down that rabbit hole of being him and Justin Kahn are racing to be the tech influencers on YouTube at this point.
Yeah.
Don't know how to have the time. It's impressive.
Yeah. So we've just focused on the web for now. I mean, you can imagine native mobile someday, but it's not really a priority for how we want to host these things. So we'll do more of this for the near term, and there's just a lot more to polish to make this experience really work the way we want.
I never have thought you'd build a desktop product, DK. Since the day we met, I never thought you'd go to desktop.
I know it's almost like the weird thing these days, right? Like you're doing it, we're doing it. Maybe Rome Research. I mean, but who builds stuff on the web anymore?
Yeah. It's like contrarian by going back to the early 2000s, right? Yeah.
Right. I thought the web was supposed to be dead, right?
All right, I gotta run. I gotta be excited a little bit.
Yeah.
It was so great
Well,
seeing you at the end, and this was fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting me on. You guys do these daily? You do the lunch break?
Yeah, every day.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
Come
by.
Some interesting conversations.
Great. Okay, have a lovely day. Bye.
See you soon.